Damien O'Connor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I welcome the opportunity to speak, however briefly, on this Act because, Mr. Chairman, this, for the agricultural rural sector, is a vital piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker. The issues have not been raised in this House, but through Section 2, Mr. Speaker, or Part 2 of this Act, I think, as the previous speaker said, there are some real dangers with unknown work-related injuries relating to poisons used through the agricultural rural sector through the 50s and 60s that have now been clearly identified as being highly toxic, but the results of which are not yet fully known. Mr. Chairman, it is very, very important that those people who have worked put their hearts and souls and worked their bodies to almost to the point of collapse to create export earnings for this country can be rightfully compensated into their old age, because there will be injuries that we have yet to clearly identify. Mr. Speaker, the principles of ACC must be upheld. Those principles that say we are a society, we are a community of different occupational groups, we share risks at different levels, but it is through that cooperation and the sharing of risks and experiences and professions that we drive this country forward. But this bill is going to divide us up into little risk groups. Some high-risk groups, people who work on farms, work in the rural areas, chopping down trees, and low-risk groups of people who do the admin work for their industries and who sit on their chuffs in Wellington, as we do. If we allow the privatisation of ACC, Mr. Chairman, we will see the division of this country into low and high-risk groups, and ultimately costs and profits extracted from the very industries that drive this country and its economy. Mr. Speaker, in the rural provincial areas, through tourism, through agriculture, through farming, through horticulture, these people take risks every single day. They work in remote areas, they work with animals, they work with machinery. The highest risk occupations that we have identified, Mr. Speaker. Through ACC, we take a societal and a community approach that says we must move forward together. We must ensure that there is adequate no-faults protection for each and every worker in this country. Yes, there will be some apportionment of higher risk through the earners' accounts, Mr. Speaker, and the workers' accounts, and that be so. But if we are to divide up those accounts even more, and assess, as the private sector will do, the very high-risk areas, then we may see small businesses that drive this country through farming, through contractors in logging, through agricultural contracting services, Mr. Speaker, we will drive them out the back door. There is a growing realisation through the rural sectors that these changes that this government is making to ACC will undermine their viability and may see them exposed to litigation, because that's the inevitable outcome of these changes, and to costs that will mean they cannot afford to employ people to do the work that is necessary. Mr. Speaker, I say that every New Zealander should read the Labour Minority Report that identifies these risks, clearly identifies these risks, Mr. Speaker, but the government, through blind ideology, is determined to push ahead, Mr. Chairman, to push ahead and privatise ACC. Part 2, Mr. Speaker, deals with some of the technical issues, and the speakers before me have rightfully identified the difficulties in assessing hearing loss and long-term effects on any New Zealander. But there are unknown effects, Mr. Speaker, that will be eliminated from investigation and proper compensation by the changes that are being made here. If you have got your claim in, you'll be okay now, but if you don't know and you've yet to make a claim, Mr Speaker...
I call David Bennett.
Mr Chair, I move that the question be now put.